Dr. Jazz.
Hey guys,
Dr.
Samo here.
Jazz.
Thanks for checking out the channel and its contents. And if you feel like it, please do subscribe. Thanks so much. Enjoy the video. Bye. Man, appreciate. Thanks for finding the time.
My
Um,
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
it's. I love the last record, by the way. It's it's a new path, like as a composer and as a player. And
Hmm.
I wanted to start with the new record. Like I wanted to ask you this yesterday, but we got cut out. Like
Oh yeah.
I really love the band and you hooking up with Aaron. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously Aaron, for my generation, Invisible Cinema, that's like one of the
Right.
best records after 2000, I think. And
Yeah.
playing with Kurt, I guess Kurt was important for you as well, and it still
Of
is. But
course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
how did this band happen? Like for where in the
Yeah. I
world?
mean,
I mean,
yeah. Well, thanks so much. I mean, I'd actually known Aaron for I guess quite a while. Not very well. Like we weren't like close friends or anything. But I'd met him through Gilad Hexelman, who's a
mm,
friend, and of course, like you said, a huge, musical inspiration for me.
mm,
And yeah, I mean, so I'd known him, and then I had a tour with my band. In 2024 in the spring, so at the start of 2024, and it was a nice tour. It was like 10 days long, and I felt like I'd written a couple of new tunes for it, and some of it was music from my last record, and I kind of um I'd always slightly avoided playing my own music with piano. Um, like I think the way I spent a lot of time developing myself as a guitar player was imagining myself filling the role of harmony and melody, and so I'd always avoided a little bit playing my music with piano. But some of the new music I wrote, I felt like it would work really well with the piano, and also it was helpful for me sometimes to have, yeah, someone playing the harmony and me not worry, like the way the music, some of the music is quite dense harmonically, and it just seemed to work better with the piano. And like you said, Aaron was one of my, musical heroes, really. And so I had this tour, and it was, nice tour, and there was some nice shows like on it, so it kind of made sense to invite him, and he was up for it, and it was, yeah, it was so much fun, and I felt like, yeah, I felt like the compositions kind of sounded amazing with him, and the way the music kind of was received by people, the way people reacted to it was amazing. But I certainly felt for myself, I was like, okay, at the end of that tour, I was like, I have some work to do. I really felt like that. Like I think in that situation of playing with the piano, where the guitar role is a bit different, I felt like I wasn't there. Like I felt I needed to kind of pull my weight more, and
yeah,
making a record is a great way of developing something and improving at something.
absolutely.
I didn't do it for that reason specifically, but I'm working on something new at the moment, and it's, there's some things I'm like, okay, I need to get better at this, and that's how I felt with this record. Is I was like, you don't want to make an album under your own name and be the weakest person playing on it. So I just felt like I had to work really hard um for kind of, it wasn't quite a year and a half, but it was like probably 15 months or 15, 16 months. We had a couple of shows the next year, and then went into the studio for a couple of days, and yeah, I really put my all into the composing, but also developing myself as a player in terms
Yeah.
of the guitar in that role. So, I'm really relieved. Like I'm happy with how it came out, because I put like just so many hours into it. So yeah, I'm really pleased you like it, and I
Oh, it's
definitely
amazing.
am relieved like how it came out. Because if you put all that work in and it's a disaster, it's a bit of a shame. So yeah, yeah, I'm really pleased with it.
No, it's quite different than open house. Obviously adding
Mm,
piano, but like you said, your guitar playing,
mm, mm.
it, it's different. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's you already on open house, but it's different. You could see
yeah,
the
yeah. I
and
think. I mean, I was just thinking about this yesterday, really, because as I said, I'm working on something new at the moment, and you I mean, all musicians are different, and I think, all musicians have a kind of comfort zone and things that they're comfortable with. And, to me, that I've worked with some musicians who it feels like their comfort zone is very broad,
Yeah.
and I've never like, but in the past, I definitely, I think even when I made my last record, I didn't feel like that so much. I felt there were some, um, yeah, there were some things which I felt, I could make good music and sound okay, but there were other areas where I felt like I couldn't be myself, but also like make the music sound good.
Mm-hmm.
And I found like doing work with people as a sideman, like working in other people's projects, like, and also working on this record, like the last few years have just really helped broaden maybe my comfort zone a bit. And as I said, like some musicians I work with, they
Yeah.
just seem so talented in
Yeah.
terms of the way they kind of pick up new things. For me, I've never felt so much like that. Like I felt like I have to put a lot of time in to get comfortable with something, and hopefully now, like my comfort zone is broader, and I can find myself in lots of different situations and bring myself to it and make it sound good. But I yeah, I think I just had to develop and become a stronger musician to make this record, to be honest. That's how I felt after the tour before we made the album. I I would listen back to bootlegs of the gigs, and
Mm.
there would be some amazing moments where I would love how the music sounded, but I just felt like yeah, I just had to improve, and that, which is great. It's a great feeling. It's just a bit daunting, and you hope you can make it to the finish line in time, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know what you feel exactly. When I went to New York and many times in 2000s and I recorded there, and
Mm. Yeah.
I was in the same room with I don't know John Abair or Tom Rainey or
Mm.
Gerald Cleaver and all
Yeah.
these guys, David
Wow,
Binney,
wow, wow.
McCaslin, and
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, man, what am I doing here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I really was like, shit, I have to get my chops together and practicing, and
Yeah.
it's such a learning experience. One tour like with Aaron or with these top cats is just like it's like a university,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you
I
learn so
mean,
much, and
yeah, that's it, it's just exactly what you just said, and I found myself in like some of those situations for in different ways for years. Like I toured with Ari Hoenig's band
mm,
for many years, and I again, like I remember the first time we did a tour, like I'd gone to study with Ari in New York, and I just felt like I did, there would be good moments in the shows, and there'd be things like I would really like how I contribute to the music, but there would just be other things where I was like, I'm just not here, like I'm not up to the level of doing this. And to be honest, it probably, yeah, like I think we toured a few times before I really felt like
mm,
I was kind of doing a better job with the music. And even now there are, I must have toured with him and played his music like five, six or seven times at least. But so that's a lot of shows. It's probably like 40, 50 shows. But even now there are tunes where I feel like if I haven't done some prep in advance, like I still feel like I can struggle a little bit. Um and yeah, so it's it's that learning experience working with people to
mm,
push you forward, and I'm on the record before this open house, Ben Wendel was on that, and it's
same, yeah.
it's the same thing. I remember sometimes I would kind of joke with Ben, like sometimes particularly again it was a kind of similar layout as with Aaron. We did a tour. I felt like it went really well, and then I invited him for another short tour. And we went to the studio. But yeah, sometimes after his solos, I just wouldn't want a solo, because I was just like it sounded
Oh
too
man,
good,
yes.
and sometimes I even once just like really kind of embarrassed myself on stage, but I like kind of it was funny, but I just said I'm not soloing after that, and we just went back and played the head, because again it was like 4 or 5 years ago now, that I guess 4 years ago, and there's just some elements of my playing which I think I hadn't spent time addressing, and I mean I still feel like that the whole time, but it's such a great education to work with musicians who have strengths you don't, and
Yeah.
to be honest, like I've even found that most, like any musician of a good level has, I've found they have strengths that you don't, or things like just my friends and peers and people I speak with the whole time, some of my closest friends, they'll like I find they have strengths which I don't necessarily have, or they things come easier for them in a certain way that don't for me. So, that's the whole game really, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's your voice also, right? Some
Yeah,
people are,
exactly.
it's like, even if we talk about the grades, like, I mean, yeah, if I think about some grades, they are good in every level. But, a specific straight ahead player will not function so well in a free context. Like,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Michael
I mean,
Brecker, let's say,
I
like,
certainly wouldn't,
completely, he was
I
really good
certainly
then.
wouldn't. Yeah, I free that'd be me out, but then you meet someone like Aaron, who I
Yeah,
feel, and actually, to be honest, not just Aaron, like Connor and James, who are both on the record, I feel like they are so broad musically,
they're really
like
good.
James, the drummer James Madron and bassist Connor Chaplin. They just seem so comfortable in every situation. Like, yeah, and and sound like themselves, and I'm always kind of a mix of like amazed and jealous with rage about it. But yeah, some people, some people would seem to be able to find their voice and express it through every, in a very broad, yeah, kind of medium.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I love your connection with Connor. I mean, you go way back, I guess. And
yeah, yeah.
James, I've known for a long time. He's such a player,
Hmm.
man. And
Oh,
but
incredible! Yeah, oh my
yeah,
God, absolutely incredible.
but
Yeah, yeah.
it's funny. Like, we're talking about this. Like, I did this interview with Gilad, and he said the
Hmm.
same thing back basically when starting to play with Ari. That he needed quite some time to feel comfortable, because when you're young
Yeah.
and you're playing with a more experienced musician, I mean, they give you a
Mm.
chance, and it's a lot of pressure. But you're learning. They know that. I think the elders know that, and they're like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
They see something in you, and
Yeah, well, Gilad was one of my big heroes when I was a student,
oh, really?
and
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, so I kind of came to the jazz side of guitar kind of late, and when I went to study music, I'd really only had a teacher for a few months. Like I taught myself, and I remember being at college and someone showing me a video of Gilad, and yeah, I really got really hooked. So Gilad was a big hero of mine, and so I, listened to him lots with Ari. That his first record of Smalls, I remember,
Yeah.
with Split Life with Joe Martin and Ari. I listened to that record on, so much. And yeah, he was a very important voice for me on the instrument. I think with him, it was the way he orchestrated the guitar in an ensemble, like that, like it's the way he presented the guitar was something new to me, like the way he connected with the rhythm section, the dynamic variation. Like sometimes it could be so quiet and sensitive, and other times it could be kind of really loud and kind of um yeah, intense, and I love the way that he presented the guitar within an ensemble.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was just one of my big heroes. So then later when I went and studied with Ari, then the next time I went back to New York, we played a bit at his place, and then I helped to organize some shows in the UK, which he came over and did, and then called me for a few tours after that, and then we've
Mhm.
been kind of working like that ever since. But yeah, I listened to Gilad in that situation so much, and it's funny because it just always sounded so comfortable to me. I was always like, oh, he just gets it. So it's nice to hear it. I think did tell me that, that he needed time to get into it. But I was always listening to thinking, oh man, why am I so slow? So it's nice to hear he had some struggles.
Oh, I love that. Well, when I do these interviews and I hear people, who I love, they're like, "Yeah, shit, I struggled on that as well." I'm like, "Okay, it's not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's a relief. Like, okay, good. We're all in the same boat, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
learning curve and a learning process, and that's a
Well, of
good
course,
thing."
some people don't like admitting stuff that they
Yep.
like something. Yeah, some people don't want to talk about it because it seems like it's a affront to their musicality.
Yeah.
But it is helpful to hear. It is helpful to hear because as I said, the music is so like in terms of the situations I find myself in as a band leader, which could be playing quartet, with the band on the new record, or a lot of times it's trio or solo. The thing I'm working on at the moment is a new solo record, so
Oh,
I got some
beautiful.
solo shows coming up, and I'm working on that. And I mean, that's already just with my own music, incredibly broad list of things, like standards, my own music, so playing solo. And then by the time you include like some of the groups I'm in as a sideman, it's a really, really like it's a lot of different music, you know, and so like I I feel like yeah, I have to cast my net really wide and try and bring myself to it, and that's that ongoing process, you know. But as you say, it's so nice. It's nice when people admit that they find things difficult because you know, it doesn't always seem like that from the outside, you know.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You mentioned Ari, like, I mean,
Mm,
how come you decided to study with Ari? I mean, he's a drummer, obviously a band leader and an educator and
mm.
everything. But was it
Yeah.
through Gilad that you kind of connected? Or?
Gilad made the connection.
Ah,
Yeah, the first thing that when I was a student at college, I went to study for like 6 weeks. I just went to New York and took some lessons with Mike Moreno and Lage Lund and
okay.
Gilad and yeah, which was fantastic. And then I went back again a few years later, and um, you know, I wanted to take a lesson with Ari. Um, I I think looking back, I didn't really know exactly why, to be honest. Like I remember, like of course I wanted to, you know, improve my like rhythm and so you know you think, oh, I'll go take a lesson with Ari, and I felt like I was kind of playing at a level where I could play with other people, so we played a lot in the lesson, and it was actually really fun, to be honest. It's a kind of way we made the connection initially, but I think I didn't really know what I know now, you know, and so I was kind of going in a little bit unclear about what we were going to do, to be honest. I
Mm,
just felt like so many of my heroes to study with Ari, and he was a musician I listened to lots. So I was like, well, I should just go and study with him. I think I was kind of slightly missing a trick about what it was we were actually going to do, to be honest. But Gilad made the connection, and we played and talked, and it was really fun. I remember playing with him, like felt amazing straight away, and he said to me, listen, let me know when you're back next and we can play again. So
oh, wow, beautiful.
he obviously didn't like absolutely hate it, you know. I and yeah, and then I remember that I went back to New York the next year, and we had a session. That was probably like the highlight of my whole trip. Like I didn't play any gigs. But I went round to Ari's basement and played a session with him. And yeah, I mean, it, it's obviously so great to study with people like that. I just was a
Mm,
little bit unclear about what I was even going to ask him. I think I just wanted to be around this great educator and musician who'd been connected to so many of my favorite, musicians. And Ari's a great person as well. Like he's very clear with music, like the way he speaks about music and
mm,
the way he plays. There's a lot of clarity, and he's thought about his process and his art form a lot, you know. So I've learned so much just chatting with him and hanging out with him, and yeah, been a really important person for me, I think, in the last 5-10 years.
yeah. Must have been great, right? When he called you, like, to do the gigs, or,
I mean,
I mean,
I remember that yeah, I mean, it was the first tour we did together. You know, we played at his house. He said, "Listen, it'd be fun to play again," and he never really came to the UK. So I said, well, why don't I just organize a few things? And I put on this tour, and it was, really great, went really well. And like all the, almost all the shows were full, and it was fun. And I felt like musically, I probably wasn't really kind of as a like pulling my weight, to be honest, but it was really fun. And then like 6 months later, he called me for a tour in Slovakia,
oh, wow,
and
okay,
but
beautiful.
yeah, and I remember that was. I mean, it was kind of quite last minute. So somebody else who was on the gig, I think, had a problem, and so I guess it was slightly right time, right place. And I remembered that I was actually abroad already, and I had to take like an overnight train to make the first gig, like 10 hours, or maybe probably longer than that, probably like 12 hours, sitting in the chair with my guitar. And I remember I was like trying to get up on my phone, like all these old charts, and trying to practice them overnight on the train. And I remember taking this train through. I think I was in Italy, so like through Verona, and it was just a crazy train ride. Like I went up to Germany and Austria, I think, and then ended up in Vienna, and then I got collected from Vienna to go to Bratislava, if my memory's right. But anyway, I mean, that was crazy. I was very, very nervous about doing that, and yeah, again, I probably feel like honestly, like I don't know if I did like an amazing job, but it was fun, and I think we had a good time
That's important.
personally, and then like for the years after that, obviously the after that, actually the year after that was COVID, but so that knocked a couple of years away. But then we kind of got back in a rhythm of he would sort out a tour or I would help sort some things in the UK, and and so it was really fun for me because a lot of places like going and playing in Europe, like in Paris or in Italy or Switzerland. Like I went there for the first time playing with Ari's band, and and that was really fun for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, amazing experience. I have such good memories of that, and we're doing some stuff again later this year, which will be really
Oh,
fun. So
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, great that you connected with him. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Also for you, like,
yeah,
to tour with an experienced musician and
yeah,
see
yeah,
how he acts and behaves, and that's
yeah, and
very
of course it's. Yeah, and I met, absolutely. And I remember the one tour we did, I remember was with the piano player Natai Hershkovitz, and
yeah,
Natai was playing organ and synths. And again, that was another interesting, kind of tough tour for me in the sense of like musically, because they sounded really good as a duo. And I remember being like, hang on a second, like what should I actually do here? Because like, often the Ty was playing the heads of tunes, so I didn't have to even play the melody always. And he could cover the bass line, and like he just sounded amazing. I was like absolutely blown away by how he sounded in that context. And so I had to find different ways. I remember that like really clearly finding different ways to change the role of the guitar within the music. And that it was actually kind of a tough tour for me, like because I felt a bit self-conscious musically, but some of the shows ended up being some of my favorite musical memories. Like
mm,
and so I've also been lucky to meet amazing people through Ari as well. And yeah, just amazing and important experiences in terms of developing,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
When you said adapting the role of the guitar, I mean,
Mm-mm.
when I listened to the new album, when you were composing, did you have that in
Mm.
mind, like writing out or not really? I mean, I wanted to
Mm.
ask you first of all, kind of two questions. Like you as a composer, there's
Mhm.
some beautiful tunes like that. Last Leap has such beautiful chords, man. And I mean, it's an up tempo, but like, and that
Yeah,
11
yeah.
one, Three Bridges, that's
Well,
like Pat
Last Leap
Metheny
is
like almost. And
yeah, Last
I don't know.
Leap is Next Step, Next Step kind of I thought what's the inversion of Next Step is Last
Okay.
Leap. Um yeah, it's not. I mean, I think that one thing I really wanted to do for this album was like I'm quite a slow composer. Like I never rush the process, and I had like a year and 4 months or whatever before I between the tour with Aaron, and then I already had a couple of new tunes for that. But I really wanted to put together a collection of songs which was kind of reflected the music, a lot of the different music I'm into. And so I remember that tune Last Leap, for example, like um that was originally a kind of slightly slower with a groove,
Mm,
and then I had like the opening harmony, which is it's very dense,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
guess um I I remember I was at my practice studio one day, and Kurt Rosenwinkel reissued that, or not reissued, sorry, released that recording he made it at Smalls, the live Smalls record, which is a live bootleg of the Next Step,
The quartet. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
exactly right, which was one of my, Next
Up-
Step's one of my favorite
Oh man.
records, and I remember just like going for a walk on the break in my, would have a break where I was from practicing, and I remember listening to that and just being like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like I felt like because I love the Next Step, and I had heard some bootlegs around that period where I felt like they sounded absolutely incredible, but I felt like the way Kurt was playing as such a young musician in terms of the writing, I was
Hmm.
just like, oh, I kind of ran back to the practice room. I was like, right, I got to get back to work, and I think I was, Kurt's the way Kurt plays and composes has always been a big inspiration for me, and so I kind of loosely wrote that tune as an inspiration to a dedication to him. I already had the tune, I guess, but I kind of changed the feel and the tempo a little bit, and yeah, I mean it's I love his music, but I hadn't really written so many songs for that before, and that was the first time I'd really written something which I liked, which I
Mm.
felt had that feeling and felt genuine, and I had to put a lot of hours
Oh man.
to work on that tune. That's I find that tune very, very difficult. It's harmonically really hard, and um yeah, I kind of, I was imagining something like Shifting Design a bit in my head,
Yep.
like what in terms of tempo and feel. And I yeah, I thought Last Leap is just about not obvious enough as a kind of reverse of the
No, no,
words
I
next
love it.
step,
I love the
but
connection.
so that's that, with that tune it was just yeah, it was a really different angle for me, and again, one of those ones that, like, when I did a long tour when the record came out and a lot of the dates were trio, and I was like, oh, this is so difficult without someone playing the harmony for me. I was like, oh man. But then of course on that, you know, on the next step, Kurt's, Shifting to Thumb, whatever, Kurt's, there's that one tune where he plays piano,
Exactly.
but he's playing without it. So I was like, oh man, I need to, I got to get to work, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to work more on that music. I'm happy with how it came out on the record. But yeah, I'm kind of I feel like I have new things to explore with that tune specifically, and so I'm going to be working on that before some of the shows I have coming up.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I kind of, in terms of the composition more broadly, I never force it ever. I wait till I have an idea which I like, and I feel it's like, oh, this is. And normally it's a melody. Normally it's like a melody
Yeah.
idea which comes from somewhere, and then once I have it, the trick is kind of more, or the skill is more the arranging and how I'm going to turn this idea into something.
Yeah.
And it really just comes from, I when I'm not on the road, I sit and play guitar basically every day, and I do a lot of it. And so, I like to have, part of my practice, or sometimes a lot of my practice, of just sitting and playing with no agenda. And so normally that's when I find new ideas, and I might make a note of them on a voice memo, or just write out the start of a score on Sibelius or whatever, and then sometimes come back to it later. But it was I never really think like, okay, I've got to write a tune like this. I've never done it like that. I've just never found that I've written something good when I've done that. But I think with this album, I had enough like material, some older material, which I'd never released or hadn't finished. And like new work which put together was like really felt like it kind of explored basically all of the music I was interested in,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was just then the work is getting it done and arranged, and then learning how to play on it as well. That's the other challenge.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a compositionally really, really mature record. I really
Oh,
love it.
thank you. Thanks.
Like
Thanks so
the
much.
tunes are developed. I love Three Bridges. That's one of my favorites. I
Oh,
mean, I
thanks.
love Odd
Yeah.
Meters. I think that one is in 11, and it's developing
Yeah.
so nicely, so slowly. It just
Oh,
goes
thanks. Yeah. And that's fun
so
because I
cool.
got to,
So cool.
on the record trading with Aaron as well. So, that's an example of where that thing I said before, you don't want to be trading on your own tune, and sound like, much weaker than the person you've hired to play your music. So,
Yeah.
so I
Beautiful.
also really enjoy playing that tune with the piano. That was a big I think that tune in some ways, it's like the feeling of playing that tune live with Aaron. I remember the kind of reaction from people when we played it. Like, I don't know. I had so many people writing to me about that song,
Really.
asking about
Yeah.
that song, or
It's a
sending
strong
me
one.
messages saying like, please give me the score," and I felt like that really amped up a lot. Like, I'd recorded that song already on the first record, but I felt like sorry, on Open House I recorded
Yeah.
that. That was the only thing we re-recorded, but I felt like when I played that music with Aaron, that song especially, I was like, okay, this really, something's happening here, and I gotta take advantage of it. But of course you can't just record one tune, so I had to find some other music. But yeah, but that I just love what Aaron brought to that.
Yeah.
It just totally sensational. Yeah, absolutely amazing. I
It's a
love
nice tune.
I Yeah.
It's a nice tune. I love
Oh,
then it
thanks.
opens the open house is like the first tune on the
Yeah,
record.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
such a
yeah, yeah.
strong tune already, but the piano really
Mm-mm.
adds like whew,
Yeah, I mean,
different
I
dimensions.
think that I mean, the element of the piano adds a lot. I think Aaron has he he has this absolute gift. Like, he has so many, like, I think as a person and musician, he has so many incredible qualities. But I think one quality which it's kind of easy to overlook, I guess, is because it's, there's so much incredible stuff to his musicianship, but is he never gets in the way,
Hmm.
He's never in your way. And what he's adding to the music, it's the like just the way he voices a chord and then the way it plays in terms of the feel, like what he can do with his left hand very subtly, um like these kind of very groovy bass like parts which they're sitting there under the music sometimes but totally elevating it to a new level. His skill and gift as an accompanist is like just second to none, and so of course, there's all these amazing piano solos and there's lots of amazing moments he contributes to the record, but his skill of never getting in the way and always elevating the music, but without putting himself first, that's just, I don't know, such an incredible quality. And I definitely strive to do that. I mean, I'm definitely not where he is with that, but I'm definitely that's one thing I thought about definitely after the first tour and about how I particularly as a sideman, some of the groups I'm in, how I um like can I do that or even start to do that like in the way he does. So
Yeah.
yeah, he really elevated the music so much, I have to say. I'm very grateful to have him on the record.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. But you seem to do that as well. I mean, I've heard some of you when playing with Tim Garland,
Hmm.
when you're basically accompanying him.
Yeah,
You
okay,
seem to
yeah.
do that as well, like a lot of intervallic
Mm-mm.
and
Sure.
listening and counterpoint stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I love playing with Tim. That's a whole
how did that
nother
happen,
incredible.
by the way?
I mean, that was like again. I mean, Tim. Tim lives near London, and I remember a similar kind of story I mentioned with Aaron. I had a tour, and I've known Tim in terms of I've known like Tim's known of Tim for, of course, he's a kind of bit of a legend in the UK, and so I had some dates coming up, and I was just speaking with someone. They said, you should chat with Tim. Like he's such a different voice on the instrument compared to someone like a Ben Wendel. He has such a different sound and musical context, I think. And so I just wrote to him, and I actually wrote to him, and he like, and he just said, "Oh well, why didn't I?" Or we connected somehow. Maybe I can't try to remember, but I remember that he came and just sat in the gig I was doing, and I'm trying to remember how that happened. But anyway, it was so much fun. Oh my God, it was so much fun. Like his energy, like that's the thing with Tim, which was his energy is just so
Yeah.
huge as a performer. And I remember it was just great playing with him. And then so I'm trying to remember how that went from that first instance. But anyway, we I ended up inviting him to a few dates with my band, and he brought along a couple of his tunes, and I a bit of a similar thing I mentioned before. Like I was like, okay, I have some stuff to work on, and
Yeah.
then and we played a bit duo, and we made this like video duo recording. So I guess yeah, I felt like yeah, I mean, sometimes you just want to do a good job for the music, and sometimes the best thing in terms of that contest is not getting in the way too much, and not
Yeah.
but yeah, it's certainly one of those things which I feel like I want to keep working at, and when you're playing with other people and you're playing their music, how you're going to elevate it, and what's amazing about Aaron is he just did that straight away. Like he sat down, and for me, like within a gig or two, it was just like, I mean, honestly, on the first gig, it was incredible, but within a gig or two, I felt like he'd found the architecture of how to like lift the music up. And I guess he's such an experienced accompanist. I guess he's worked as a
Yeah.
sideman with so many of, like you talk about Kurt, so many, Terence Blanchard, so many amazing musicians. I guess he's much more experienced than I am at this point. And so it's just something I thought about a lot after the recording is how can I be better at that and help elevate other people's music that I'm playing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, how did you? I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned Tim Garland,
Mm,
and you play in many gigs nowadays as a sideman, and
mm.
becoming integrated in the London scene. I mean, back in the days, I think there weren't so many jazz guitarists in the UK. I mean, there's a strong scene like the horn
Yeah,
players, Ian
yeah,
Bellamy and Mark Lockhart and all these guys. But there was Mike Walker, John Paricelli, maybe two main guys. Now I see it's you, it's Ant Law, it's Chris Montague, it's Rob
yeah.
Loft.
Yeah.
so many amazing guys. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
how was
yeah.
it for you getting integrated in the scene? I mean, what were your first steps? And because you were fairly
Yeah.
young, basically, right? When you came
Well,
to
yeah, that's a
London.
good question. Yeah. I mean, I think the first few years I moved to the city was in terms of musically was kind of challenging, to be honest, because you're yeah, I didn't know that many people, and probably my level like it wasn't where I needed it to be, and like in terms of we talked about earlier, the thing of being a strong musician in lots of different situations, like what I remember when I finished college, I remember being like, okay, I think I can really have a good career as a musician. I remember I'd like done this final performance at the college or whatever, like playing with my trio, playing my music, and I felt like it'd gone really well. And, but I realized that that wasn't going to be a lot of the work I was doing when I moved to a city. And so that, well, I mean, that was a bit of a crushing reality when I first moved. And it was honestly the first few years was difficult because I was teaching a lot. I wasn't
Mm,
playing a lot. I was trying to practice, but it's hard sometimes practicing if you don't feel like there's an outlet for it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, it just took me time, really. There's no way around it. It took me time, and as you say, there's so many amazing musicians here. I think the thing to do is just try and follow your path and not worry about you know competing with other people and
of
and
course, yeah,
and like not and but that's a hard lesson to learn as well, and
yeah,
but yeah, so I think following my own path and just trying to you just slowly establish yourself a little bit and get known by people, but it takes time. It took me the first kind of tours I was doing definitely were like at least 3 years after I moved to the city. It wasn't like it happened soon at all. I mean, maybe even a bit later, to be honest. Like maybe those tours with Ari would have been 3 or 4 years after I
sure.
moved. So it just took me time. It just and even now, like on the scene in London, I meet people who I haven't worked with before. I mean, of course, there's so many musicians here, and I, I yeah, there's just still people who I know but I haven't worked with, or
Yeah,
it's a huge scene, and I think that's probably quite common in a big city. So it's you've got to kind of do, I guess, the obvious things like go out to jam sessions and meet people, and I did those things. I mean, I felt like that was one thing, talking about sounding good in different situations, like going down to like a pretty straight ahead jam session. I felt like at that point I never sounded so, I wasn't so comfortable with that, like again, it was a bit out of my comfort zone. Like all these incredible horn players just getting up and shredding and
mm-hmm.
sounding amazing. And I would get up and I don't know, I think maybe I was trying to force my own, like trying to be like, this is who I am. It's like, and this is my voice. I'm trying to play in my own kind of way, and it just didn't sound very good, I don't think. And it took me time to learn those lessons. Just sound good
Absolutely.
in the situation you're in, and had to work at that. Had to work at having stronger time. So if you're playing and the rhythm section's not super strong, you're not going to fall apart. And
Yeah.
just all those lessons. They just took me time to learn, and I've been living here. This will be my 10th year.
Wow, amazing. Man.
I think it's normal. It just takes time.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys like the New York scene was is
Mhm.
maybe especially earlier on, people met. I mean,
Mm,
when I went to New York a couple of times, also, jamming with people in their
yeah.
places, like where they have set up drums in living rooms and
Mm, mm,
lots of
mm.
jam sessions. Is or was that part of the London scene as well? Like people meeting up or lots of places to play? I mean, how is it nowadays? Like,
That's a good question. I, I would say not quite as much as New York in terms of people meeting up to play.
how come? Why do you think is that?
I don't know. I mean, people do it. It's not like they don't do it,
Yeah,
but like um, I don't know. It's just not quite as much as in New York. Like there's a few people I meet up and play with like pretty regularly, and I think. I do think there's part of it, but although this is definitely the same in New York as well. But London's an expensive city, and
sure.
so people are often, like I don't know, if it's not related to work, like it's one thing meeting up and playing if you got a gig, but I find it's not like. And of course, people do play, like I mean, they definitely do. But I remember even when I was in New York, like getting invited to go and play at sessions with people who I didn't know, and had some, oh my God, some horror stories really, but like it being a bit of a disaster. But like people didn't even know me, but I would just totally be like, oh, we're having a session next week. Why don't you come and join us or whatever? And for me, that didn't happen so much in London. I don't know. I I don't know exactly why that is, but it's not that I don't want to say it doesn't happen. I
No, no,
do.
no, but it's a
I
different
do.
vibe, right?
It is a bit of a different vibe, and even when I'm sometimes like, I go one of the places I go to the most, like well, basically I go every month is to France to as a group there I work as a sideman, and I go once or twice a year with my own band, and even when I'm there, people are always like, oh, let's have a session if there's time, or and I love to play, so for me I'm down, but it is a bit of a different vibe here. But I don't want to say that it doesn't happen. It does
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
It's and I have a I have a session in the diary for next week, but it's I mean I have a practice studio where I go and work, where when I'm in town I try and go and work there most days, and there's drums in the room I share with a friend who's a drummer, and the whole complex we're in is just loads of practice rooms like that, and I don't think, people, there aren't as many. There's lots of jazz musicians there, and there's definitely not like as many sessions as you might think there would be,
Yeah, yeah.
and
That's why, yeah.
I've never totally worked that out. Like it's one thing I do think is like people are kind of, people are busy, people are working hard. Like I remember when I first moved to London, like just to pay my rent, I was teaching so much, like
Sure.
traveling all over the city, just spending hours traveling each day. So sometimes I guess your energy levels like are just not, or like so. That's one thing I've thought about before. Is it just because it's so expensive and such a big city that maybe people get like caught in the work element of
Yeah.
it and not so much the play? But it that's definitely a very overly simplistic answer because first of all, people do meet up and play the whole
No,
time,
no,
but
yeah, yeah.
but it is, but also there's so many different people from so many different places, so that definitely doesn't explain it totally. But it is definitely a different vibe to New York. That there's no question about that. Yeah,
It's like there is it's like Paris, like it's a scene. There's so many musicians, but there's not a scene in a sense. Like I don't know how to
mm-hmm.
explain it. Like in New York,
Yeah.
you have like 50 concerts going on every evening. Like
Yeah.
it's
I
like
mean, and
wherever you
there's a
go,
lot
it's
of, I
like
mean, like there's a lot of good clubs here, and
yeah,
if you're right in the center of town, obviously you have Ronnie's, and then Pizza Express is just
yeah,
around the corner, like on the next street. So and then I think there's meant to be although I don't know too much about it, but I think there's a Blue Note opening this year, apparently,
oh, okay,
really near that location. So that'll be interesting because that'll be like three big clubs. Like in Paris, you've got Duke and
yep, yep,
Sunset right, right on that street. Be interesting to have that, maybe a bit more of a theme like that in London. I don't know, but then some of the other clubs like the Vortex, which is a great club,
of
that's kind
course,
of
yeah.
in Hackney. That's kind of further from the center. And I guess some other places it's just kind of spread out. So I I don't know. I kind of agree with your assessment. It doesn't. I'm not sure there's necessarily, or if there is, I don't know if I right in the center of it in that way, like of the scene of it. Like I know a lot of musicians, but I don't know if it operates quite in the same way.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting.
certainly maybe the scene of, or the element of the scene I'm in isn't so much like that. I mean, I I certainly do, as in terms of my own music. I obviously play away from London much more than I play there. Like, 'cause if it's your own band, you might play, like a couple of, like. I mean, I'm thinking about my diary now. I think the next show I have with my band is in Ronnie's in May. I haven't
Mm,
got any shows in London.
yeah,
And then in the autumn I'll have a show. But if it's your own band, you're only going to play a couple of times a year.
of course, yeah.
So as a band leader, of course, I'm playing much more internationally than I am in the UK. And um, so I
Which
don't
is
know.
quite
That's
great,
just,
right? I mean, it's amazing
yeah.
for you because like many UK
Mm,
players who are amazing don't get to play so much abroad, actually.
mm,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
you're quite not an exception, but like,
yeah,
Mark Lockhart, Ian Bellamy, all these guys, I'm not saying they don't play, but they don't play as band leaders like in
yeah.
Germany and
I don't.
Europe,
Yeah, I
or
don't know. I mean, I
which
don't
is
know. I mean,
interesting.
that's interesting. I don't know about that. For me, it was always, um, yeah, it was always, if when you work really hard at your own music,
Yep.
you want to play it for people. And I felt like even at the beginning, I, um, I mean, when I had these experiences like touring with Ari before I was touring a lot as a band leader necessarily, and so I made some connections like that, and also saw that's what people do. They go from like city to city, like either in one country or in different countries, and that's what you do. And so I guess I started trying to do the same thing myself, and also I felt like sometimes that's where the interest was, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
that if um you know like it's yeah and I there was some there's some places in the UK where I felt like I had a nice following for my music, but also sometimes when I go to France I feel like or um I was just in Asia recently. I don't know, people seem
Amazing.
to know. I mean, it's obviously very small. It's it's not like stadiums or whatever, but
Sure, sure.
but people seem to know my music there and be following it. And so you kind of the aim excuse me, the aim is of course is to to present what you're doing to people, and people especially who are interested. So like like yeah, like I just this tour I did when the record came out, we went to Australia, which was my first
I
time,
saw
but
that, man. That's
it was,
incredible.
but it was honestly easier for me to sell out some shows in Australia than it would be like in some places in the
Same.
UK.
Yeah.
It's and it's. I mean, it's still all quite new for me. I've only been doing this kind of thing for the last like 4 or 5 years, really. My first record came out in 21,
Yeah.
so
Sure.
so 4.5 years ago. So I'm still learning about what it means to be a band leader in terms of that side of it, but I've just found that that's where, um, yeah, people are, like people taking lessons from me or asking me for my sheet music or coming to my concerts. A lot of the time, there are people in London or some cities in the UK, but it's places outside of the UK,
Yeah.
and in some ways, it makes sense. It's easier to sell out a show in Paris than it is in a small town in the UK.
Yeah.
So there's a scene there. So like that like so. I guess that's what I wanted to do is connect with have people
Beautiful.
who connect my share my music with people, and so I hope it continues. I mean it's yeah it's I guess I'll be doing the same this year, and just taking it year by year and hope it continues. But I that was always my in terms of the kind of presenting it, that was always my view was that if you're a musician, the whole thing is like if you're a rock band,
Yeah.
people need to be interested in your music. That's the that's the whole goal is people like your music and then they want to come and hear you play. Like
Yeah.
that's like it's of course like there's other elements to it, and I'm never sitting practicing thinking, okay, what am I going to play which people like? I think the nice thing in this genre is that if you if you present something at a high level or a good level, there are going to be people out there who are interested. And also the thing which I find so amazing is people's enthusiasm, like for what you're doing, can be so overwhelming and inspiring. Like it's and that gives you a lot of energy as a musician.
Absolutely.
So it's yeah, I feel so lucky to have been doing it the last few years, and I hope it continues.
Oh man, absolutely.
You
If
know,
spreading the name and if promoters like it, they'll invite you again. And I think
yeah,
that's important.
I,
That's a process. And it's when
absolutely,
you think
yeah,
about Pat Metheny, how they did it. I watched one interview. They started in a van like in the mid '70s and drove
right, right, yeah,
miles, hundreds of miles just for gigs for
yeah,
six people. And
yeah,
it's
right.
yeah, that's so good.
It's building your thing. It's
Exactly.
building, and I have to remind myself that sometimes, like, to 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 think about that. Like, it's very easy to like I can be very obsessive with practicing and like, right. So right now I'm working on this solo thing and I'm putting a lot of time into that. But I have to, you have to remind yourself while you're doing it that this is going to be something which comes out and people will listen. And so, put your all into it and work your hardest
Yeah.
and keep building that thing, like sharing your music with people. And so, um, Yeah, you're right.
Beautiful.
I think I mean, when this tour we just did, Jeff Ballard was on a week of it,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and
initially. Yeah,
it was so great to. Again, Jeff is someone I'd known before a bit, but and we'd hung out like sometime, but it'd been a minute since we'd hung out, and this was the first tour we'd done together. And it was so amazing talking to him about his experiences and also perception of like what a tough travel day is, I think for me, I was like, oh Jeff, I'm really sorry. We have to get up at 7 to go to the airport. He'd be like, what 7? Are you joking? This is fine. Like, don't well, I used to do tours when we did this and like some of the stuff you're talking about, and such a I mean, first of all, incredible guy,
such a
musician,
nice
but
guy.
real
Yeah,
road warrior, right?
yeah,
And it gave me a bit of perspective on my generation has it kind of easy for touring in the sense that just in the sense there are some real challenges, but I mean there's so many flights every like from London, for example, there'd be like 30 flights a day to France,
yes, yeah,
but actually more. There's probably like 6 flights a day just to Lyon. There'd be much more to Paris, and you've got the Eurostar. It's easier to get places now than it ever has been. Of course, there's other challenges, but we have it kind of good on that front,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you know, I I had an incident last year, or actually now 2024, where I wasn't allowed on the plane with my guitar,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I was heading from Copenhagen to Paris, and we were playing at the jazz festival that night, and the show was sold out, so I was really excited about it, and the club would have been absolutely furious at me if I hadn't made it, but I mean, I lost a lot of money, but I
What a
just
cheap.
booked a new flight 2 hours later,
Yeah, yeah,
because from Copenhagen to Paris there was 6 flights that day, and so we're very lucky from that aspect of how connected is, and so I have to count myself lucky to be doing it at a time where it's like there are other challenges, but on that aspect, um, yeah, it's there's nothing to complain about really,
yeah, 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 yeah. You're doing the booking yourself still?
Mm, it's a mixture
Okay.
depending where it is, yeah,
Yeah,
depending where
it's a
it
lot of
is.
work. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, some places I have an agent doing it for
Okay,
me, and
fantastic,
some places I do it myself. But it's
fantastic.
still. I mean, yeah, that's obviously something I'm hoping will change more towards me doing less. Um, of course, it's kind of a different experience when you go somewhere and the agent's booked it and they sort everything out for you versus you doing it yourself. It is a lot of pressure to do a good job because
Yeah,
you're also responsible for other people, I mean, that's the same whether anyone's booked it, whether it's you or but um yeah, and that's been a newer thing for me just this last year or two, working with people and like an agent in a specific country who will sort the whole thing, and yeah,
beautiful.
but it's a
Yeah,
mixture, and it is still a lot of it's a lot of work, and I
it is.
it's yeah, hopefully that will kind of slightly like get the ratio of agent to me will slightly change, from where it is at the moment. But it's okay. I still have time to practice every day or like most days every week and put a lot of work into that and um you know been so lucky to tour so much. So I really
Yeah,
can't complain. It's yeah, been really lucky the last few years about the touring I've done as a band leader and sideman. So I can't complain about it. I just, of course, if it changed, like if an agent did,
oh, it will. No worries, no
90% of
worries,
the booking rather than 60%,
no
or whatever,
worries.
or 50%.
Yeah. Tom, not to take too much of your time, I just wanted to
No,
ask you
no
about the
stress.
solo record. How do you
Mm.
approach playing the solo guitar? I mean, the solo guitar heritage, it's immense, Johnny
Mm.
Smith, Joe Pass, Ben Monder, all these cats like
Hmm.
sitting there and
Hmm.
like, how do you
Yeah.
approach it? Like, what's your, and I guess original
Well,
music or standards or,
yeah, it's all there's one original thing, but this new one. I mean, I did one before, and my process was um I like for about I mean, I'd been playing solo a lot already, but like there's like a 4 6 week period where I just every day played like I picked some songs and then like I wanted to record and then I every day I'd work on new arranging ideas for them. So I would like compose different ideas and like come up with ideas and just practice them over and over again, like almost like you're practicing a lick, or something. And then went for like just literally just a few hours, and then I recorded I wanted to record more. I only got 6 things I was happy with. So for the first one I did. So it's kind of the same process at the moment. I'm going to try and record some classical guitar as well this
Really?
time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's just some things which I've worked at for quite a few years, which I wanted to actually record. Like I did this Debussy transcription, and I actually have already kind of recorded it in terms of I put a video on. I recorded it at home and put a video on YouTube. But
Oh, shit, I have to find this. Okay.
yeah, you know, I put a lot of time into that. Probably like, but definitely over 100 hours just in that transcription. So I kind of wanted to record it because people have often asked me if they can listen to it somewhere that's not YouTube because it's just a recording from my. The video looks nice, but it's just a recording from my phone. So I thought, well, I'll try and record that. So there's quite a lot of like prep, just like technical work for that. And then I've written a couple of short guitar studies, which I'd written some of them before. Like I did this
Yeah, I
This
saw
is a
that. Yeah.
few years ago
Yeah.
now, but the etude book, I wrote this collection of etudes for guitar. So I have a few new ones I'm going to try and record, and then from so that's a kind of slightly different mindset because everything's composed, and so it's just about it's great
Executing it.
practice
Yeah.
for technique and sound and colors and expressions, but it's a different mindset because it's not improvised at all. And then the other things like collection of standards and one original thing. I mean, it's a bit like the thing I did before. So I'm just trying to workshop ideas, and then until I have a strong vocabulary which is flexible. I think on guitar you have to be prepared to you have to have stuff prepared. Like um it the way the instrument is, you have to have particularly if you're soloing with chords, you have to kind of prepare ideas and until they're really in your playing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then that becomes your kind of improvising language. And then I'm just workshopping a lot at the moment. That's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon is, I'll think about, okay, like if I'm going to play a chorus on this tune, like how can I shape that? And so I'll spend like half an hour working on some specific ideas and then another half an hour on some other ideas and then another half an hour. And then I'll try and see if I can just begin to improvise with those ideas together in a way which is kind of feels natural and musical. So it's just like almost composing
Posing.
new
Yeah.
ideas to build a new vocabulary in the same way that when you're trying to develop your language as an improvising musician, you're workshopping ideas. It's kind of like that, but I'm creating the ideas to start with because I'm not really, I must be honest, I'm not checking out that much other solo guitar for this
Better. Yeah.
recording.
Yeah. Super.
There are a few things there are a few things which like I've listened to in the last few years, which definitely would be like little like some Pasquale Grasso, like some elements of that, just like elements which I find the whole thing inspiring, but some elements I'd like to try and take into my playing, just more kind of conceptual level than like taking like specific idea.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's piano actually, and thinking about yeah, like how I can make the music have the same emotional quality as the piano player, even if I can't do everything at the same time. So, actually, I was listening to quite a lot of Aaron solo. Sometimes it's just bootlegs I'm listening to. There's a couple of tracks I've been studying a lot, yeah, over and over again, just thinking how can I get this quality into my playing. So, like I mentioned, like Aaron's left hand, trying to have this sense of like this the music really swinging but not overly forced or overly overstated, so how I can maybe try and create that on the guitar, um and like if I'm not playing any chords and like bass or whatever, just playing a line, how that can fit in with the shape of the whole performance and like not make it sound empty. So it's and also some arranging as well. Like there's one stand like a Lee Morgan thing I'm working on,
Oh,
um
beautiful.
and it's yeah, it's a blues, but there's like it's called Speedball. It's a blues, and but there's like a tag, like a kind of after the head, and him and Wayne Shorter are playing these harmony lines. I'm trying to get these harmony lines on top of chords, so some of it's just workshopping the
Oh,
actual
yeah.
arrangement, So I'm gonna do it in a few weeks. So I'm just trying to, alongside I have kind of a few other projects which I need to work on music for other people. So I'm just trying to find the time to really shed it. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be okay. I think like the last one, I guess I'm just going to go and record some stuff, and I probably won't get everything. Like
Oh,
I
beautiful.
but hopefully something comes out of it, you know. So
Looking
yeah.
forward to that, man.
No, thanks so
Beautiful.
much. Yeah.
Super. Cool. Tom, if you're around my area, drop me a line
Oh, that's so
in
kind.
Austria or
Thank you.
something, and
That's such a kind thing. Yeah, thank
just
you.
if you want to hang or whatever. And I'll let you know when this is out. I'll send you a link. I'll usually leave
Yeah.
it in whole. It's like a nice talk we did, like, and it's so
Yeah.
I just cut the
Absolutely.
beginning
Yeah,
and
yeah,
end,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. I
So
didn't say anything
no,
crazy.
we didn't. No,
We didn't. Yeah, yeah,
but cool,
yeah.
man.
Thanks so much. Yeah, listen, all
Thanks
the
again.
best, man, and have a great year, and hopefully catch you in person.
You
And
too. Stay
really
strong,
nice
and
to
I'll
speak
send you
with
a
you.
link and everything,
Brilliant.
and we can share it then.
Thanks so much. All the best.
You too. Bye.